Hello and welcome everyone to your energy forecast from the Akashic Records for the week of April 4th, 2022. I am your messenger, I guess I would call myself, Jennifer Longmore, founder of souljourneys.ca and the #1 Akashic Record training school in the world. And we're going to dive right in. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great start to April. The energies are interesting to say the least this week. So much to tell you. So I'm just going to unpack it for you, and you can let me know in the chat how this is resonating for you. And do me a favor, if this was helpful to you, share it with as many people as you can, because we're trying to keep our vibe high. We're trying to keep all the lighthouses shining as brightly as possible and really living from the codes, right? Living from the codes that we're activating, living from the codes that other people are activating, being a contribution to the collective, basically, and what we already contracted to come here and do. So the first thing that they really want to point out is this is going to be a week, the body's been coming up a little bit, but this is a week where we really want to take exemplary care of the body. So if there is any dormant stuff going on in your body, any dormant illnesses or injuries that you've been kind of leaving to the side or getting distracted by, it doesn't mean that bad things are going to happen. It just means that whether or not you choose to put your attention on them or it happens in another way, attention is going to be put on those things. So be sure to, if you've already been getting the nudge that it's time to change up what you're putting in your body, this is a good week to honor that. If you're already getting a nudge to go back to a practitioner, let's say, to deal with balancing your energy or something along those lines, that would be great. I apologize for my voice. I was having to call after my dog this morning. I decided to go and check out what the fox and coyote were up to. So anyways, a little bit of a scruffy voice from having to project my voice to call her back home, and she's safe and sound, by the way. Anyways, if I'm clearing my throat, that is why. We additionally, on a body level, we're getting, I'll say, a cellular upgrade. So there's kind of a reorganization of energy in your field. We are being calibrated to that next level. And so any density that's in the body that's preventing the flow of how the system needs to work to prevent the system from being in equilibrium, that's going to come in. So that's going to mean you're either going to be really high energy this week because you're getting all kinds of jolts of electricity essentially, or you're going to feel a little more tired, not because I want you to decide that you're going to be tired, but just that feeling of, something's reorganizing. So that's what's happening in the physical body. They're showing me that the emotional body will be relatively still this week, which is interesting considering, that there's so much to care about on the world stage. But this would be a good week, especially if you consider yourself an empath, to take advantage of things that you maybe wouldn't do otherwise, because it might wreak a little bit of havoc in your emotional body. Maybe you've been wanting to go somewhere where there's, or maybe you need to get something at a mall, let's say, and maybe malls are super sensitive for you. This will be a week where you'll be able to navigate those type of environments a little easier, because interestingly, the emotional body is pretty stable. So this is a great week to plan. This is a great week to imagine. This is a great week to be more social, because your emotional body isn't going to be constantly calibrating to other people's energy. It's not going to be experiencing the reverberation that you might normally feel if you're around too much energy at once. This is also a week where you're going to have clarity on the next phase of your path. It's going to come in really clear and really quickly, likely in the beginning of the week. So just setting the intention that you're available to hear that. If you are, some people aren't. Some people unconsciously anticipate that there's going to be inconvenience, or when we're moving to the next level of our path, we focus more on what we're going to lose versus what we're going to gain, or who we're going to lose versus who's going to come into our life. And regardless, those cycles are going to happen. Trying to control them by avoiding what's on the other side of this clarity isn't going to serve us, right? So we're going to be having more clarity on the next phase of our path. And with that, we're going to be revealing the next layer of any dormant talents and gifts and codes that you came in with this into this lifetime with, right? To support people during this time, and of course to support yourself. It's going to be an overall light and playful week. So just allow yourself to have fun. And if you need to unplug from social media or the world stage, this will be a good time to do that, because the energies support you being able to release the need to know what's going on and just go and have some fun. And this will also be a week where, well, the other thing that's going to happen is more deception is going to come to light. And I don't say that from a place of following cue or any of that stuff. I'm not meaning that, because I know that term can be associated with that group. What I'm saying is that more deception on the world stage will come to light, but even just where you might be deceiving yourself, right? Where you might have a false sense of objectivity about certain things, maybe where you're convincing yourself of things in order to keep a certain story in your life active. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, right? And then even people in your own circles, if there, it doesn't mean there is, but if there is any kind of deception, anyone that's kind of being a double agent in your life, right? Pretending to be your friend and then behind your back, maybe behaving a certain way. If you have a client that is maybe passing off your material as their own, that kind of thing, any of that kind of stuff is going to come to light. And of course, Become a Body is going to be relatively chill this week. It's actually, if there is anything going to come up, it will be a good week. Same with on the world stage. There'll be an element of objectivity that you can maintain. And I will say, with a lot of the things that happen on the world stage, a good indication that something is true is if you can remain emotionally neutral. It doesn't mean that it isn't disappointing or it isn't whatever it is, upsetting, disappointing, etc. But it's that you don't get that instant hook in your emotional body. That's a good way to pay attention to what might actually be true. A lot of times those emotional hooks can be associated with what we call fear porn, right? And people purposely twisting or putting things on the world stage to hook us in our emotional body, because we know that I don't mean any of us, right? But we know that humans, let's say, are more easily controlled through their emotional body. And so destabilizing us in that place just further helps the psychological warfare that's coming at us. So you want to be mindful of that. And then the one thing that they did say with respect to the mental body is that judgment may be a little bit higher this week. So you might be feeling like you're on the receiving end of that. So doing some extra energy hygiene would be helpful. Again, a great week for that to happen, if it's going to happen, just as much as your emotional body is going to be relatively balanced this week. So anything like that may come at you, you'll be able to navigate that. Alternately, you might find yourself being a little bit of a judgy McJudgerson of yourself or other people. It's just kind of in the air. And there's a fine line between judgment and assessment, right? We can judge a situation, meaning we can assess it and we can anticipate and we can unpack it. We can do all kinds of things. That kind of judgment is just sort of three-dimensional, left brain, practical ways of going through the world. We're judging all the time, but it's really more that we're assessing, right? And this is speaking about actual judgment. So making something right or wrong, especially if we don't have all the information. So to give you an example, last week, my son came home and he was beside himself. And if you have kids, you know, they get that look in their face and they're just about to cry. And then you ask them what's wrong, and then the floodgates open. So he just had a full-on emotional meltdown. I don't mean that in a bad way. He's entitled to that. And but anyways, he was talking about his teacher and how, you know, he had just finished saying that his teacher was great, but then she kind of lost her marbles on the class, according to him. And so he was very upset. He was so upset that he marinated in it all night and all the next day, and had to come home from school the next day because he had such a bad tummy ache. because he's stressed himself out so much. So, but anyways, as he's telling me the story, I'm trying to get him to look at why that may have happened, and also recognizing on the receiving end of that story that I might not be getting the story through the lens that of what actually happened. And it's not, of course, that I don't believe him. I just recognize that a comprehension level at age 11 is very different than an adult perspective who can see the whole class. When a child at that age can only see, what's right in front of them, and they're still developmentally kind of in that black and white thinking phase. But I also know he's upset, and I'm tending to his emotional body. Anyways, I had said to him, like, there's a lot happening, right? We don't know. But in my head, I'm not saying this to him, but in my head, I'm thinking, well, maybe if she's in a relationship, maybe there's issues. Maybe she's having issues with the principal. Maybe, she just got a health diagnosis that's super stressful for her. Maybe she's caring for aging parents. So my brain is always going to go to what might be going on for someone if a seemingly calm person and a seemingly emotionally mature person kind of has an explosion in the classroom. And it wasn't an explosion, right? It was just described that way by an 11-year-old who wanted to kind of taint the storyline, right? To avoid, as we later learned, that he was maybe more complicit in some of the shenanigans in the classroom than, of course, he let us believe. But all that to say that that's kind of the energy we want to be in. So instead of instantly getting a reaction, just saying, I wonder what might be happening for that person. The reason I say this too is because the guides told me years ago that the easiest way to stay out of judgment is to be in the energy of fascination. Another way to say that would be to be in an energy of curiosity. We know there's a lot going on over these last 2 years. We know that we're in surge capacity. And that we're not designed to be in surge capacity for any longer than probably 48 hours. We know that everyone around us is in surge capacity, not to mention the layers of other things. We know that we came into 2020 with trauma, and 2020 created a compound trauma effect, and all of the other things that we've been experiencing individually and collectively are creating compound trauma. Same with grief. So there's a lot going on. We just are not, you got to figure that a good chunk of the population was not very emotionally and spiritually mature before this, right? And they're being even more taxed. Their coping mechanisms and so on are being even more taxed. And even within our community, there's just a lot going on. And so it's not about excusing things. It's just literally about detaching and going, okay, can I just allow this person or this experience to be what it is and not make it mean anything, and just rise above it, and ask myself in a few weeks, am I going to even care that this happened, or that this interaction happened, or this conversation happened with this person? And in 5 years, am I still going to care? And if the answer is no in both situations, then that's a pretty good indication that we don't need to marinate in it and stew in it. So anyways, I hope this helped everyone. That it's relatively a chill week. I'm kind of excited for all of us. This is a great light week to be moving energy, to be in flow, to really set the intention to be in flow, to have a little extra play, to let it be light, and to infuse light in all of your situations. Even if you're in business and you're posting on social media, you're probably going to notice throughout the week that whether people are aware of it or not, there's going to be a lightness to what people are sharing. There's going to be a lightness into how people are engaging. And so let's just activate the law of repetition around that and enjoy that for weeks and weeks to come. I hope this helped. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.